Welcome, everybody. I am trying something. I'm trying something that I have not tried before, which is doing a live stream on YouTube and Substack at the same time. So I have to have two different devices doing that. So I'm here on my desktop doing the YouTube stream, and then my phone is right here doing the Substack stream. So I'm going to do my best to try to keep eye contact with both screens throughout. So I had the privilege of having a chance to watch The Voice of Hind Rajab last night, um, directed by Kaouther Hania. She's a Tunisian filmmaker. I haven't seen any of her previous work before. And I had said to people that I'd hoped to do a live stream on Substack right after I'd watched the film. Unfortunately, originally that would have worked out fine. The film was supposed to be on a Sunday afternoon, and I think because this was a small movie theater, and I had a chance to talk with one of the directors of the movie theater afterwards and say, what has been the reaction? And she said when they showed No Other Land, they had uh, Zionists protesting, etc. And she said that uh, there was for this film than we saw for No Other Land. But I think that's the challenge is, let's say certain forces have stopped this film from being in wide release, despite the fact that it's an Oscar nominated movie. And uh, we know why. Because if people were to see this film, they would start to ask questions. And I think that's what's very special about Hind's story is one of the people asked, there was a discussion after the film, and a volunteer, Alexis Berenz, she works for um, conflict resolution in Gaza. She's lived in the West Bank. She lived in Ramallah, and one of the people asked, "Well, why Hind? Versus the thousands of other stories of children." It's a reasonable question, and Alexis, I think, gave the most obvious answer. We have the audio of what happened to Hind, and social media is what sparked all of this. In fact, if you go and watch any of the interviews of Kaouther, the director, she will tell you she first got a hold of this story from social media. She heard the recording, a snippet of it, and in her mind, she felt that Hind was speaking to her personally. And she thought, well, what can I as a person do? What can I do in this situation? She is a filmmaker. And what was fascinating is she'd actually been working on a film for 3 or 4 years, and they were starting pre-production. And she abandoned that to then say, I'm going to go after and try to do this. And in her mind, so how am I going to do a film about this? But she said, I have to do something about it to move forward with it. And I think because I had mentally prepared myself for how difficult it could be to see this film, it wasn't as bad. And by that I mean just emotionally draining. I still felt completely emotionally drained by the end of the film. And part of that is what the film gives you, which is a much larger picture than Hind's voice. Obviously, Hind's voice is the entire centerpiece of the film, but you have to build around that and say, well, how is this affecting the larger world? This, you could think of a spider web crack in glass. So at first there's one crack and then it spreads out everywhere. And so how was Hind's situation affecting everybody? And in the plot of this film, you could say plot, you could say in the frame of this, you have the first responders, the people at the Red Crescent Center taking the call. And in agony and anguish, how is it possible for me to help this girl? And insisting, you can see the map, it's an 8-minute drive from where the ambulance is, at, I think it was the Baptist Hospital, to the Fares gas station, which is inside an enclosed zone where Hind's family had been killed and she was in the car. And so the dispatcher is, hey, and she's 8 minutes away. He's banging on the glass. And obviously, Mahdi, who is, you could say, the administrative person, the person who has to arrange for coordination, he is the victim of Omar's anger. He wants him to be saved. He has to direct his anger at somebody, and they get into larger arguments. And in fact, there's this one line where the lines keep escalating, the tension between the two, and he says, "You're the reason we're occupied." He says this to this man. And obviously, this man is not the bad guy. He is trying to make sure that his first responders going in there don't get killed. And he points to these images of these first responders who have been murdered by the IDF in the past. And he says, I said I would resign if there's another face that goes here. So that tension between wanting to rescue somebody and wanting to make sure it's safe enough for your first responders to do so. And it's this upside down world where you have to coordinate, and it's done very artfully in the film. You have to coordinate with the people who are murdering you to get permission to go and rescue the people who've been murdered. I mean, that's the upside down world that the film is set in. And what I like about that is, because of the storytelling technique, this isn't explained in a boring way. It's illustrated. In fact, in one, Mahdi is writing on a glass board with marker as he's saying it. It looks like his character is expressing frustration, but it's very artfully explaining to us exactly how coordination works. So the IDF is always going to tell you that it's a mistake. These are the people who say, oh, our bombs are so precise, we don't harm anybody. It goes in and it kills. It doesn't even harm the cat or the fly. Of course, they murder everybody. They murder the children. They murder the cats. They murder whatever. And yet, when an ambulance is sent and the route is sent, here comes the ambulance. What the ambulance is accidentally shot when the lights are on. When you know that an ambulance is coming. When GPS can track the ambulance coming. When the Red Crescent is tracking it. So it's not enough to kill a 6-year-old girl and her whole family. You have to kill the people who come rescue the ambulance as well. And this was in January last year. In fact, interestingly, I think here we are, I'm recording this January the 31st. I think it was January the 29th that this entire thing happened with Hind. I mean, just a year ago. Does it feel that long ago to you all? I don't know whether it feels longer or shorter, but as I said originally, it was not as hard as I thought it would be, I think in part because I prepared for it. So I think I would encourage you all, if you have a chance to see it, before you see it, go and listen to the voice recordings again, just to prepare yourself for it, because that's what ties together the whole film. We keep going back to, and it's done in this excellent way. And I've seen other films use this where they blend actual historical audio with characters. And so when the actors are speaking to Hind, they're speaking as if they were the first responders. And so Hind is responding to them, and then they're hearing that. And what was interesting was, as I was watching the actors, I was thinking about something which the actress who plays Rana talks about in one of the film panels. If you go online and you watch, she said, we had to remember that as the characters, we didn't know what would happen to Hind. As humans, we know. We know what happens in the story, but as the characters, we have to think about what it was like to be in that situation, trying to rescue her, and think about there's still the possibility that we could rescue this girl, and what would be the levels of urgency? What would the physiological effects be? And we've seen this documented before. I'm reading now. It's not. It's back behind me. I suppose I can grab it because I want to talk about it anyway. I've been reading The Eyes of Gaza by Plestia Alakad. And she talks about, here I can put it this way for the Substack audience who's over here and YouTube's up there. So Plestia talks about the physiological effects of stress, of hearing people who've died, and that people would faint as a result. People would get ill. She had rashes break out in early October of 2023 when the genocide first began. And I think we don't think about that so often because we're not subject to the levels of trauma that Palestinians, just as a regular Tuesday morning for them. And here we watch that happen. Rana's character at some point faints from grief, exhaustion, anger, frustration, and um, and that's just one of the ways that the film does a very good job of illustrating the spider web effects. So Rana, who's one of the dispatchers who's trying to talk to Hind, and you can see she's trying to do what she's been trained to do, which is if someone is wounded or in trouble on the phone with the Red Crescent, I think their normal practice is to just keep them talking, keep them calm, let them know. The problem is Hind is 6 years old and she's been in this situation for hours. So they just have to keep circling back to um, how are you? Tell me something. And her answers are heartbreaking. They're horrible. They said, "What is the name of your school? Are you in preschool?" "Yes, I'm in the butterfly class." So their classes were named by creatures. And he says, "What is the name of your school?" And she says that the name of her school was Happy Childhood. And the dispatcher, you can see he really struggles with this. But I think the other answer is probably for me the most powerful moment in the film comes fairly early. And I would say it's when Rana, the character, who was supposed to go off shift, she was, I think, at the end of a very long shift, and she really doesn't know what to do with Hind at the moment because she doesn't know what the status of the dispatch will be, and she doesn't know how serious it might be. And she says, "Would you like to pray?" And Hind is terrified. Hind, in a sense, you could say, doesn't want to pray. She really wants to be rescued. That's all she keeps saying over and over. "Come help me, please. I'm scared. Come help me. Come rescue me." And so Rana is trying to calm her down, and she just repeats from memory. I think I'm not familiar with the Quran, but it sounds like prayers, verses from the Quran. And the child is repeating back to her, sort of call and response. Very beautiful. And because I think in part because of the words of the prayer and because of him just repeating them as if she were in school, this is what I'm supposed to do. But at the end of the prayer, she says, "Come help me, come rescue me." And that just shows you that sort of um ability of him to try to stay calm as she was directed, but at the same time still being a child, like, this is my single focus. And at the very end of the film, we are given some video of Hind's mother, as well as Hind herself, which I think is even worse in the sense of most of us have only ever known Hind as a voice or as photos, but to see video of her playing on the beach is hard. And as I said in the first part of the stream, Hind is not unique in the sense of there are thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Palestinian children. Remember the video we have of the 12-year-old boy during the first intifada being killed in front of his father, killed in the arms of his father. This is not the first time we've seen the murder of children in this situation. It's that it comes at a particular time and in a particular way that I think gives many of us the opportunity to share this story with others in a non-threatening way. Say, "Listen, go see this film, and if you have questions about it, I'd love to talk to you more about it." And that's what I think I saw last night in the questions and answers. There were quite a few people in there who really don't know the larger picture. They know that there's an occupation in Gaza. They know that there's some conflict with the Israelis and the Palestinians, but I don't think most of them really know how we got here in the first place. And I think that only made me feel stronger about our mission here at Palestine Bookshelf, which is to talk about the history and make sure people understand the background for things so that you're in a better position to make your arguments. But in a sense, this film makes the arguments for you. It's very articulate. in the way that it uses Hind's voice. I think it's very respectful. The family, her mother is there and involved, and it's something that can start conversations. And I'm in awe of Kaouther, the director, and the team, how they were able to do this in a way that was not just a documentary, not just playing the recording for us, but dramatizing it in a way that's very true to life. The extras for the film who are walking around in the background of what would have been, it feels a lot like a play. If you've ever watched, I don't know, 12 Angry Men or any sort of stage play where everything is really in one or two rooms, that's the film very much feels like that, because you're going between where the dispatcher is at his desk, and Rana sometimes comes and sits there, to the larger office, and maybe out to a balcony, but everything is happening in about 4 or 5 rooms. So it's very constrained in that way, but it's still, there's so much story that is told in such a constrained space. So it reminds me a lot of a play in the way that it's staged. But it's a great way to introduce a friend who may not know, who's at least curious, who's at least interested, willing to look at this film. I don't know where you're going to have a chance to get it. I want to, publicize the Acme screening room in New Jersey. That's where I had to drive a couple hours to go see it, and I had remembered asking the director of the movie theater. I said, thank you. Well, first of all, I thanked her for screening it, because it was the closest place within 2 hours of where I'm staying to go see it, but asking, when she might see again. And if you're in the greater, let's say, New Jersey, Newark, Philadelphia, New York area, although I think there's quite a few that are closer to New York that are showing it, they're going to show it again next week, I think. So February the 5th, a Saturday. So if you're in that area or people in that area, I would strongly encourage you to go support the film, support Acme Screening Room, and go check this out. I think they might also have another panel again with people who have worked or volunteered in Gaza to share some additional stories. So those are some first impressions, first thoughts. A reminder, those who might not know, who have not heard me talk about this before, I created these stickers as a benefit for the Hind Rajab Foundation. So 100% of the proceeds for these stickers here. So there's this one, a square one for, it says end the occupation, and then larger rectangular ones here. And 100% of the proceeds for these sticker sales go to the Hind Rajab Foundation. If you're not familiar with their work, they help bring cases against Israeli dual nationals for war crimes. So we know Israel's never going to prosecute their criminals for war crimes, but if you're, let's say, a Belgian national, the Hind Rajab Foundation could bring a case against you in Belgium for the prosecution of war crimes. This is a more recent thing, postcard. You can get 10 of these for $1.50, and this has all of our links for audio, articles, videos, and you can find that on the same, if you go to PalestineBookshelf.org to look at that. I'll just look really quickly to see if there are any questions or comments in Substack or YouTube. And if not, I will let you all go. Thank you all for coming on. I didn't make an announcement on Substack for it, so it was very sudden. Let's see, Zizou. Thank you for what you do. Zizou, thanks for coming by and supporting. Try to think if there's anything else about the film that I've forgotten that I wanted to talk about. It's not very long. An hour and 29 minutes total from start to finish. And yes, it was January the 29th, 2024. Sorry, it was not a year ago. It was 2 years ago. That's why I thought it seems longer than that. So their ability to bring this story to light in such a short period is another thing that should be commended for the team that put this together. I'm really impressed by them. Zizou also comments, free Palestine, yes, from the river to the sea. All right, I don't see any more questions or comments. Sure, it's a busy day for everybody, so I'm gonna let you all go. There should be, I think, the replay of this obviously stays on YouTube, but I think it'll be the same on Substack. I'll try to make sure that happens. Thank you all for stopping by, and I look forward to speaking with you again next week, as we usually do for these live streams, to talk about films and documentaries about Palestine. But do your best to check out this film. It's well worth your time.